Welcome to this week's Legend of the Woods series podcast. Before we get into that, we are going to cover the Last Breath launch party. If you're listening to this podcast on Prime Rib Day, you still have a couple days to contact us and get some tickets. This show is going to be on the 21st, so that'll be Friday night. Be a good time for you to get out and come to the show. They're going to be showcasing, I think, 3 of their videos that they're going to put out, and this is just kind of a sneak peek for everybody to come out and support them guys and gal, and see their films. Their films are immaculate, and Cody and I are very happy to call these guys our friends, and I think we're friends. I think we're at that level. But it's a great show, free admission. You just got to have a ticket. So if you need a ticket, just contact us or contact Last Breath on social. Get a ticket. You get a chance to win some gear. They throw a whole bunch of stuff out into the crowd. And the most important thing is you get free beer to enjoy the show with. So definitely looking forward to that. I'm going to be hammering it a little bit and enjoying my time there. We're pretty pumped about that. We can't thank them guys enough for putting it on, and it's a blast. You guys, if you can make it, you definitely should try to make it, and just want to thank them again for everything that they've done for this podcast and, our videos and editing and just kind of how everything works. So if you're available, hit us up and get a ticket, or hit them up and get a ticket, and it's going to be something that you're not going to want to miss. It'll be here in Galesburg at the Orpheum Theater on Friday night, June 21st. Let's get into the show.
Welcome to the Whitetail Legacy Podcast.
Tomorrow is opening day.
This morning, didn't have a great hunt. Deer didn't move like usual.
We just got set up in the middle of this bedding thicket. We've been saving this spot from the rut. I think it's a nice buck.
Boom! Hits a 170.
That was money. I think he's down right over there, 10 yards.
Whitetail Legacy Podcast, bringing you back to the hunt and leaving a legacy.
That OG real dream.
Here we go. It's a Wednesday, and you got your earbuds in, or you're listening on your radio in your truck or car, and you are just rolling to the legacy right now. You're about to get real deep on a 240-inch buck, and you got to add 10 inches for the barbed wire. So we're talking at least 260 plus. I know the math don't add up, but it can on when it gets this big. You can't even add. I can't count that high. That's way too big of a buck.
Yeah.
We got Adam on with a 240-inch gross Illinois buck. That's right, Illinois buck. Shot with a bow in the morning, late November. Very cool. Hope you guys enjoy this episode. Trail cams, a lot of stuff breaking down in this one. A lot of good tactics that you can learn.
A pretty wild story,
Pretty
too.
wild story. A miss might have happened, and then might have connected later. You have to listen to. I might be just feeding you a whole line of bullshit. You don't even know. You have to listen. You have to listen to the whole thing to figure it out. Let's get into the partners. Make this possible. Start out with a title partner, the VIP Veteran Broadhead. We got this trend going while we are telling you why we shoot the veteran. So, homie, hit him with a little veteran knowledge.
I'm going to hit you this week with the components that make the broadhead the broadhead. We're going to start off with the solid titanium tip, which we've covered. We got the 7075 T6 aluminum body and the blade lock ring. We have the million plus cycle inner and outer springs. Got a chrome steel ball bearing that's working with the inner spring. It's all held together by an Allen set screw. And then we have the old trusty lawsuit eliminators. Guards for the blades because they are scalpel sharp. And then, we're going to finish up with these broadheads are held together by no plastic and no rubber bands, all metal.
So basically there's a lot of stuff going on in there, but he's got the engineering down flawless. One thing I will say, we have stocked turkeys with these things. We have stalked deer with these things, and the blades do not deploy while stalking. I used to shoot an NAP and a Rage with a rubber band, and if the damn blades, the rubber band shot, then you just got to stop stalking and replace the rubber band if you notice it,
Yeah.
So
no premature deployment on the veteran, and literally you undo that Allen set screw, and then you just unscrew the tip, and everything is literally apart, falls right out of the broadhead.
Yeah,
get it all
clean
cleaned
it up real nice and put it right back and send it back into action.
Super easy.
Hit him with the VIP Veteran Broadhead shout out.
This week's VIP Veteran Broadhead shout-out is Josh Minnick. He's currently a Master Sergeant and has spent 16 years in the U.S. Air Force. He had 4 years active duty flying the E-3 AWACS as an airborne surveillance tech. He has flown a number of President of the United States missions and humanitarian missions over the southern United States after Hurricanes Irene, Katrina, and Rita in 2005. He has left active duty and has spent the last 12 years in the active reserves as a tech, where he had to switch jobs twice due to the military cuts. And he has also been deployed to the Middle East.
Wow, this guy's a senior out there. 16 years, definitely got some experience.
A lot of surveillance going on here lately.
A lot of airborne, a lot of flying, helping with the hurricanes.
And the president?
And then the reserve for 12 years. I mean, this guy's been at it for a long time. We can't thank you enough, Josh, for your service, the dedication to this country, so we can do this wonderful podcast. Everybody here at Whitetail Legacy, the VIP brand, and the VIP family. One thing I'd like to say, we have been getting a flood of veteran shout-outs here lately, and one thing I've noticed is veterans don't like to call themselves out for their service sometimes. So I think that if you are a veteran out there and you are listening, feel proud of it, man. Let us shout you out. We take pride in this. This is something that we love to do. This is something that the VIP brand loves to stand for. So let us shout you out. Don't be afraid to message us in. I know in the military it's, there's a lot of hidden, warriors out there that did it and you don't even know they were in the military. They just don't talk about it, you know what I mean? So we want to put that out there. And if you know a soldier that you might want to shout out, put them in there. You can do it on Facebook, personal message at Whitetail Legacy or whitetaillegacypodcast.com. We have a special page just for the VIP shout out. So hit us up on that.
And we've inquired about some people, and just like Cody was saying, there are people that don't want to talk about it, but until you ask them about it and then you start a conversation, then they'll tell you about it, and then you realize how proud they are, and which they should be. So just start the conversation. Yeah.
All right, let's get into Scentlock. Talk about the Oz Radio 400B. I was working nights, and the guy I was working with, dude, we're in a truck, and he eats pickled herring. Pickled herring. So the Oz Radio was definitely in that truck. So when we hopped out of that truck, I turned the Oz Radio on, get that pickled herring smell out of there. I mean, I don't even know what to say. That's real life right there.
Yeah.
So, you know who was eating it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's just, he's got some weird eating habits. But you can't knock the guy if he likes it. You just got to put up with it. So this is my way of, he gets in there and they're like, oh, what's that? I'm like, I have no idea what that is, man. So
it's clean.
Yeah, the Oz Radio, we use it in the studio, in the home, in the basement, at work. We just did it in the locker room at work a while back. So we use it all over the place. Let's get into Ingram's outdoor obsession. My freezer's going out in the house. So I got a freezer in the garage. So Ingram's about to get a lot of goodies. One thing Ingram does that a lot of Texans don't do, he tans his own hides in-house. So I have some coon hides that Nick's daughter on her first trapping trip got.
Oh, really?
And yeah, they're in my freezer, and they are going to go up to Ingram's and get tanned out and given to her as a present as her first trapping trip with her dad as remembrance to that.
Awesome.
So that's pretty cool. A lot of taxidermists send their own hides off. You lose a lot of detail when you do that, and Ingram does in-house tanning.
Maybe inquire a little bit more cost.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because somebody's making some money.
Yeah,
You know,
you got to pay for the shipping, pay for tanning, so that's the way he's able to keep it a little bit cheaper than most. Let's talk about ECW calls, all your custom call needs. There might be some new stuff coming out from ECW. We can't put any leaks out right now, but there's definitely some new calls coming out. Maybe an elk call in the works. That's what I heard down the grapevine. So we're excited about that.
hey,
I
we
have
can't
no
tell
idea.
we can't tell you what's coming.
We can't
but
tell you all the deets, but we
but
can
there
tell you
may
like
be.
something might happen. But I'm excited about that. I have no idea how to blow an elk call,
I don't either.
But
It requires 2 hands. I know that.
but it'd be a good way to learn. We can get one from ECW, and maybe in 8 years when we can afford it, we'll go on elk hunt.
There you go.
All right, guys.
All I know is that guy's busy.
Yep. We hope you enjoy this episode of a 240-inch legend of the woods out of Illinois. All right, we got Adam Cartwright. Did I murder your last name or did I nail it?
No, you're good.
Oh, nice. So we teased in the pre-roll that we might have had a buck on here that had something wrapped up in its antlers. So this might be this episode. How you doing tonight, man?
Doing good.
Like I said, we appreciate you coming on. We've been trying to get this in the works for a while, but it worked out great because now you're in the Legend of the Woods series, which your buck is definitely a legend.
Yeah.
Illinois buck too, right?
Yep.
Shameless plug for Illinois right there. Moving on. Tell the audience just a little bit about yourself.
My name's Adam Cartright. I'm 31 years old. I live in Xenia, Illinois. I've been hunting for probably archery hunting since I was 9 years old. That's about it.
Nice, man. Been archery hunting for a long time. That's cool. Yeah. So the buck you shot, I just want to get right into it, man. I'm just so pumped about it.
Diving in.
Yeah. Did you have a name for it?
When I first got pictures of him, me and the farmer that actually owns the property, we named him Superstar.
Yeah.
To start off with, but it gradually changed through the hunting season, and ended up being Dale. I don't know where it came from. I'm just in a couple group Snapchats, and every time he was mentioned, it turned into Dale. So
Bale. That's cool.
Yeah.
That's a unique name.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So the story of Bale, I like that. Let's break it down. So you got your first trail cam picture. Tell us when that was.
Well, I got my first cam. I pulled my card. I believe it was second week of August, close to second week of August. Yeah. Pulled it in September. And the camera had been moved, and something had knocked it over, and still had like probably I think 400 and some pictures. It was on a funnel, you'd say, coming from bedding to food, and about midway through, there he was, about half of his head cut off through the picture from where the camera had been bent over.
Oh man, I hate when that happens. We've had that happen a lot, where a coon crawls up or a squirrel or something, and you get like 2 pics of a coon belly, and then it's sideways. You're like, ow.
Yeah. And then, I had it on 3 picture bursts. He was still walking. Got some good pictures. I believe there was like 6 or 9 good pictures of him, and never could get a straight on picture to see exactly how wide he was. I didn't know. I knew he was wide from the farmer. When he was cutting some wheat, he walked out in velvet early in the year, and he got a picture with the cell phone, but it was so far away. It was like 250 yards away at the cell phone, so it was blurry. But I knew he was big, and I knew he was living close to that area.
Nice. Yeah, those big ones never seem to just pose perfectly right in front of the camera and just let us get good pics. You in Illinois, a lot of people were like, "Oh, I got 100 pics." I'm like, we can't bait, man. We don't get the pics that you guys get. You know what I mean? We can't get those pics where they're just like turn left, turn right. You know, we got the back view, the side view. We can't get those.
Yeah, he gave me almost every view in those 6 or 9 pictures besides straight on or straight away. But I ended up before I killed him with 27 pictures of him. So
nice. So he was frequenting a little bit.
he was he disappeared for quite a while. Out chasing and everything, but I believe I was definitely in his home area or his core area.
Yeah, it's crazy. We hear that a lot. How the bucks disappeared and then they come back. So when did he get the barbed wire wrapped up in his antlers?
As far as anyone knows, it was the night before I killed him.
Oh man, that is epic!
Oh wow!
Yeah.
Wow.
The same farmer that took the picture early in the spring, he was actually spraying the same field that fall and jumped him out of a fence row with 3 does. And he says he didn't have it on there then. He said, I got a good look at him. He even stopped halfway in the fence row and looked at me. Granted, I had him at 20 yards and didn't even see it hanging on him when I shot him. But
yeah, when you got one coming in like that, you're probably like me. You're just like, okay, it's a giant. I'm going to stop looking at the antlers. Yeah. So walking up on that thing, you're probably like, holy smokes, what do we got going on here?
Yeah, I actually didn't even see the barbed wire until I actually tripped on it walking up to him because it was so long. And he didn't go to the clearest woods either. He went to the thickest part of the thicket, and I just laid down.
Nice. So let's break down the hunt for us. So you got him on trail camera early, and then throughout the season, did you have him on trail cam?
Yeah, I got him. I believe it was November 5th and November 4th and 5th, and then November 6th, which I didn't know they were on. He was on my camera. I hadn't checked him. And I went in November 6th, early one morning, sitting on a big draw with actually where I've been getting velvet pictures of him. There was a big overgrown CRP field, and it just got daylight, and I just happened to catch some movement out of the corner of my eye. Looked out across the field, and I could see antlers. Pulled my binoculars up, and there was another deer in there. He'd probably go 160, and he was coming across the field, and I noticed something behind him, and I looked, and then that's when I seen his whole right side, which is the all messed up side. So obviously I got real nervous real quick, but they were out rubbing on the field. It was kind of weird. Everywhere that 160 incher would go, he would go right behind them, like he was just following them. And then I lost him out in the field for a little bit, and I grunted at him, and all of a sudden the 160 poked his head up at 30 yards looking right at me. He had me pegged. So he got a little nervous, and they went back across the field where I had seen him the first and started tearing up trees and everything. And I grabbed my rattle antlers, and I just barely tickled them together 3 times. And all of a sudden, here they came across the field. Right. I mean, it was like stuff you see on TV. I couldn't believe it happened just like that. Anyways, they come in. I stand up. I'm talking to myself, tell them don't move. Obviously, I'm in this little bitty tree. And the 160 comes in and walks 10 yards from my tree and looks right up at me. And as he's at 10 yards, Dale's at 60, just staring at him, watching him. The 160 starts getting a little nervous, does a little half moon around me, and Dale just starts cutting on an angle towards me, and I had one hole, and it was at 45 yards. Stopped him in the hole, and drew back and let it go, and hit a twig. I could see my could see my luminoc, and it was going right for his face, and I didn't know what to think. Ended up hitting him right in the base of his antler, broke the arrow, broke the broadhead, and he took off. And I really honestly thought that I'd never see him again. That was on November 6th. And of course, I didn't hunt hardly anywhere else. Hunted when the weather was right, hunted when the wind was right, and just stayed on that farm. And I believe it was the 28th. Back up a little bit. I was somewhere in mid-November. The rut had came and gone, the big part of it, and I was hunting one evening up on the north end of the farm. It's a 140-acre farm. Not real big, not much timber, just a bunch of draws and fence rows and small fields. And I went in one night, set my climber, and set till after dark, and got down, reached in my pocket, grabbed my flashlight, turned on, and it was dead. So walked out in the complete darkness, got about halfway to the truck and was going down a hill right before I got almost to the road, and there's seen an antler. I picked it up, and immediately I knew it was his shed from 2 years ago.
Wow.
So it was just luck. It was luck, but still it made me, I was just so discouraged after missing him and everything that it kind of gave me some hope.
Yeah, for sure.
Moved my climber a little bit. I believe it was like maybe a week and a half, 2 weeks later to the 28th. And the night before, I was sitting there in the living room, getting ready for work, and all of a sudden, the same farmer that had seen him spraying, he called me and said he jumped him. And I worked till midnight that night, and I knew I was going the next morning. And so the whole night I stressed about where I was going, what side of the farm I was going. I've been hunting north side, but he'd been seen on the south side that night. And I was sitting in the office one night and was talking to another guy that I hunt with, and he told me he was just joking. He's like, "Well, he don't want to die unless he's on camera." And I'd been so careful all year, going in. I have a golf cart. I go in on it, spray everything down, spray myself down. No, trying to keep no scent anywhere. And so I was nervous, and I was like, you know what? Let's try it. And my climber been hanging on the north end, so that was the plan, just to go in and let him climb up beside me and see what we could see. But I checked cameras that day before I found out he was seen on the south end. And for 5 days in a row, I had him coming through the funnel I was hunting every morning. And I hadn't been hunting. So we decided,
man.
Yeah, pretty much had him back on a food pattern. And he's going food at night and then going back to bed mid-morning, 6 o'clock to 9 o'clock, somewhere in there. And we went in. We went in super early. The guy had actually went with me. He had worked all night, so he came over, hadn't had any sleep, and went with me. Climbed up, and at a couple times I did see him. I looked over at him, and he was sleeping. So when I did finally see Dale, I didn't even pay attention if he was awake or not. I just stood up, and it all happened so quick. He came in, stopped at a log about 45 yards away from me, and looked around, jumped over the log, and walked 20 yards to me, and broadside, and tried stopping him. He didn't stop, and I wasn't letting him get away for the second time. So shot him. Go ahead.
Was that in the same pinch that you had been in before?
I had hunted it before, but I had never. Not the one where I found it. Was actually 20 yards from where I found his shed.
Wow.
So,
Nice. And this is late season in the morning too, right?
yeah, November 28th, I believe. It's been a
Nice.
while since I've even
The
thought
dates
about it.
get all mixed up for me
Right.
too, man. I'm
Yeah,
terrible about it.
yeah. It's my latest one I've ever killed. Normally, it's first 2 weeks of November. Normally when I harvest one, but it was really weird when, I shot him and I knew I had hit him. Actually, on the video, I dropped the F-bomb about 8 times and turned white, but um, I knew it was right behind the shoulder. It may have been a touch high, but we got down, started looking for blood, and we only found about 20 drops of blood. Kept going back to the video, watching where he came and went around the trees, and that's how we found the blood. And I was actually so nervous. I was telling him, we need to back out and call dog, come in, give him more time, and this and that. And we took 2 steps, and my buddy Ray, he happened to just almost shoved me over. He was laying 20 yards from us, dead.
Wow.
He just ran over by a big old tree, laid down. He didn't do no crashing or nothing. He just laid down and died right there. So
So you had went to that stand because you had checked your trail cam, or did you have a cell cam there to be able to track him for the 5 days in a row?
no, I in the funnel, all the way through the funnel, I had 3 cameras just trying to see what trails they were using, and he would hit all 3 cameras coming from the east to the west every morning for 5 days in a row.
Wow.
I wish I could get a buck on cam for 5 days in a row.
That's epic, man. That's awesome.
I checked it that morning that he was seen on the south end, that he got jumped, which it's pretty easy access. I could slip in by a creek, walk the creek, jump out, and check cameras, and jump right back in. So
Nice. You brought up a lot of stuff. CRP, man. Something about big bucks and CRP. They love that stuff.
they do.
I think they like getting out in there. They like them little saplings that grow out there to rub on and just kind of chill out there. And another thing is a buck, a mature deer with them. It's like them giant bucks. They get a buddy
Right.
that let coax in first. You know what I mean? I don't know how many stories we've heard where the smaller buck comes in and the giant's like holding back, and makes me remember, lopside. A lot of pictures of lopside and then freeze.
Yeah.
So that made me realize, well, maybe lopside and freeze were rolling together, and he was using lopside as kind of a screen. Well, he got through okay, so I'm good to go. You know what I mean? So that was pretty cool. You bringing that up. Sounds like you got another stud to hunt this year. If there's passing a 160 to get this deer.
Yeah. I didn't see him at all this past year. I don't know where he went, unless he just changed so much that I couldn't recognize him. But yeah, there's definitely some good genes through there.
Nice. And it blows me away that the barbed wire was put in on the night before you shot him. So when he went through that pinch the 5 days, there was no barbed wire on his antlers.
No, none on him at all.
That's freaking insane.
You see,
man.
I mean, to be rubbing like late,
Yeah.
November.
Do you have any idea, how he could have got, or like an area that he could have picked it up?
I talked to the neighbor to the east, and he said he had just put some up that fall. He believed it was his. I mean, it's clean. There's not a bit of rust on it. But I never went and looked over there to see if
I noticed that it was like bright shiny. It wasn't like he got into something that someone had threw, an old fence line or something. Maybe he was fighting something and got tangled up in it. But it's just crazy how it was like. It seemed like he'd been wrapped up in that wire for a while. As tight as it was on his rack. So.
Yeah, I would say he was, and I'm just glad he got out of it rather than me having finding him or someone else finding him tangled up there.
Yeah, you see that all the time where bucks tangled up, on social media, and someone's cutting them out, or they find one tangled up in the barbed wire. And I've never found one like that before, but I know it happens a lot.
Yeah.
With it being new fence, he could have just been cruising for does and not a fence there normally, and just ran right
Yeah.
into it.
Yeah.
And with
Yeah.
all that, he's got so much mass and points and kickers and stuff. Just pretty easy to get it tangled up.
Oh yeah. Yeah. And actually, the night before I killed him, I didn't know it until after I'd killed him, but someone had seen him um, going across the highway, going clear, and there's not much over there. I think there's a 200 and some acre pasture before it ever turns into woods. So he covered some ground the night before that I harvested him. So
Yeah, that is something to shout out too. The bucks travel a lot more through pieces where there's no timber than what we believe. We've seen it multiple times last year where bucks are traveling north, and we're the last piece of timber north for a half mile.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
and then 4 days later, they're coming back from the north. You're like, okay, So you just went up there and checked for does and swung back down. So I think a lot of those pieces that are like on the far extremities that people are like, well, there's no timber that's not connecting on this end. It's might be better than you think. So
Yeah.
you shoot him, you walk up, he's 20 yards away. What was your react? I mean, I may have dropped some F-bombs when I shot my buck, so I feel what you're saying. And especially when you put a good shot on him, then you're like, oh yeah, what was your reaction walking up on him?
Um, I mean, there's really no. I don't know how anyone could react. I was excited. Um, I was actually just speechless. I didn't know. I finally got to lay my hands on him. Deer hunted for so long, but this is the only deer that has actually drove me insane like it did. I mean, it was just bad all year, especially after missing him. And I was, we did a little interview holding him, and I was just speechless. I didn't really know what to say. Counted the points.
Yeah, how many points was he?
27 scoreable.
27 scoreable, and you said he was 240?
241 and 7/8.
I don't even know how to get that big. Giant, man.
Yeah.
27 scoreable points, but I mean, you have to add 10 inches for the barbed wire at least.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. When I told homie I complete Ricky Bobbied, I had no idea what to do with my hands. When you get up to a buck like that, you're like, I don't know what to do, man. You just just in a mode. You're like, you finally got it done. Now, you're just on cloud 9.
Yeah. Everyone. I mean, it was unbelievable how the word traveled so fast. The only people I called before I even got out of the tree, I called my dad. I called my boss just because I had to work that night. Did
you tell him, yeah, I'm not going in for a week?
Yeah. Actually, he was really good about it. He told me that I wasn't working as long as I had a personal day left. So,
nice. Yeah,
and I don't know how many people the guy that was with me, told, but he was down out of the tree waiting on me to get down. He was wanting to go see him too. So, he actually beat me down. But it was actually I was parked on one of our main highways, just pulled off on the shoulder where I'd parked all year. And, before, a couple of buddies with me came to help me. And, before it's said and done, I think there was 15 cars parked on the side of the highway.
Wow.
You dragging him out. I would have pulled over too, man. I couldn't help it. I'd be like, all right, I got to go see what this is. What do we got?
So. I actually had a game warden, good friends with. He came and, did some pictures, verified, tried to keep the haters, so to say, away. And
can feel that, man.
And he had been, he came and picked me up a couple times. We drove around, told him where he'd been seen, just looking, because I mean, he's definitely a deer that could be poached pretty easily. He was being seen almost weekly in daylight hours. So
Wow, super daylight. That's crazy.
yeah, he was well known through the whole county, and everyone. All you had to say was that highway deer, and everyone knew it. So
Nice.
I think it's crazy how daylight he was, or how many times the farmer seen him, or just wandering around daylight on cams. For me, that just don't happen, on the regular. So
yeah,
I find it very interesting when I hear stories like this of multiple people seeing him, or multiple hunters, or having years of history with him. I think that stuff's really cool.
yeah, he was. Most time you don't, especially after you have an encounter with them. I mean, they go nocturnal and stay there, rest of the season. But he was maybe a couple of days, and then it was all of a sudden I'd get another phone call. There he is. He was over here crossing the highway, or seen him coming out of this thicket. My uncle actually called me. It was first shotgun season, I believe. He called me and said I almost hit him on the other highway, um, 2 miles away from where I had missed him, and we're talking that was within 10 days of me missing him. So
wow. So it goes back to show, just like we've heard a lot. Sometimes they leave their home range, but if you got a buck that's home ranging there, if he survives the rut, he's gonna come back.
yeah,
So that's good to piece the stories together. We get to hear a lot of these legends, and we get to piece them together, and it's crazy how similar a lot of them are. You know what I mean? So it's cool for us to hear that. I want to go back to when you missed. You didn't really miss the deer. You hit the antler, so I'm still counting that as a hit. But anyway, so I mean, you're in the CRP. You got a 45-yard shot. You take the shot, which I take 45-yard shot all day. Especially if I feel good about it. And to hit the antler, how many days was it before you got a trail cam picture of him again?
I got one at night. It was about a week later in that same CRP.
Nice. I feel like for me, if a buck had an encounter like that, I always wondered like how many days should you wait until you go hunt him again? Because if he's in that area, do you crush in there the next day, or do you need to like let him a cooling off period? Give him a few days, because we know they don't forget that stuff, But
yeah, I believe the weather was bad for that stand anyways. So I don't think I even went back in there. And I think I checked that camera going back in there a week later or so, and that he was in there the night before, in the out in the middle of the CRP. But
nice, man. That CRP, they bed in there. They like to push those in there. If you can find a piece that's got good CRP on it within a good area, it's going to hold some deer. So.
Yeah. That's what I told when we went and first looked at it, putting cameras out, we were looking around. I never stepped foot on that farm until 2017. And we were riding around on the golf cart, and the beans were, of course, waist high. And I was like, well, what's on top of that hill? And he said, well, that's like a 15-acre CRP field. I looked at him, and he still says I looked at him like I was dumbfounded. I'm like, well, let's go up there. And we rode up there, and I told him, I said, he'll die in this. And actually the tree stand that I hung, it was just a hang on. It took me 2.5 hours to get it situated in the tree. It was so small and so crooked, and I didn't have any stand, to hang in crooked trees. So
yeah, those CRP field, that's one bad thing. Most of the time, it's either it's something that hasn't been timber, so you're just looking at trees that have grown up on an old field, and they might be 5, 6, 7 years old, so you don't have the best option. They're not going to be a big oak tree out there to get in most of the time,
Right.
No. I ended up actually having to take a 2x4 and screw into the side of the tree to get the stand to sit level, and situated enough. And I was only about 12 to probably 12 foot off the ground, which isn't bad, but I prefer to be about 20 or 25 normally.
Yeah, there's a lot of people say, man, it's about the tree. You know, if you got to be 12 and that's the spot, which it obviously was, you knew he was using that area. I had an opportunity at him, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, it was on the south. It was on the south side of the field. Obviously, you know, my plan of it was he would be cruising that CRP field in the rut, checking that northwest wind across that field. And he came from the south edge of it, but he went out across the middle and just made a big circle out through it. He didn't check it like I thought he would, but he was also following the 160. It was with him.
Do you have an approximate age of that deer?
I didn't age him, but I had him at 6.5.
Nice.
Just by trail camera pictures, and just there's 3 years of trail camera pictures of him that I know of, and you can the first year that I've seen, I mean, his body size, he looks mature in it to me.
Nice. Yeah, it's always cool to see, you know, what kind of caliber deer, because we hear some of the legends are 4.5 and some are, you know, 8. You know, it just depends on different deer peak at different times. But
yeah, the game warden actually, he checked his teeth as soon as we got him in the truck, and he said as wore down as they are, it's kind of a guess without sending it off. But he's at least 5.5.
nice.
So
we like to ask this, you know, we like to ask a couple questions on these, but what do you think ended up being the reason that you killed that deer? You know, if you could boil down just a couple of tactics that you think made you successful, what would it be?
I'd say trail cameras is a game changer, for sure. I don't know if I would have went hunting any more that late like that if I wouldn't have got pictures of him 5 days in a row.
Yeah, I mean that's pretty late even for me to be hunting mornings. You know,
Yeah,
it's hard to catch them. You know, you're back on that feed pattern, and you're just expecting them to be in bed. You know, so early in the morning. But like you said, having them trail cameras out there and catching them so many times in a row, that really motivates you to get out there even after working all night.
yeah. Other than that, I mean, scent control was one of my biggest deals that year. You know, I wouldn't go in and ever, you know, I'd dress at the truck and undress at the truck. Always use scent control, anything I could. But
Yeah, you never know how much those bucks can take. You know, you can hunt the wind all you want, but that ain't gonna prevent a deer from walking where you walk, you know, and catching a whiff and vacating that property. It's crazy how some bucks have like more thresholds than other. But I feel like if you're in a home range of a deer, it has a lot more threshold than we think. You know, so you got to risk it for the biscuit, as a lot of people say. You got to go in, like you said, when the weather's right. You know that you're going to be risking it, but the chances are higher in your favor to kill them. So.
Yeah, I had actually went in one evening. It was a light rain. Went in with my climber. So I hadn't hung hardly any stands. I hunted majority out of the climber all year. Went in. I knew a tree sitting on a creek crossing, and as soon as I got climbed up and everything, I get a phone call and say, "Hey, that deer just crossed 80 yards in front of your truck."
Oh man!
Wow.
And I'm like, "Well, I'm 150 yards in front of my truck." So
crazy. Never know, like just like we say, you really never know how close you are to these deer. You know, when you're out there hunting, you're a lot closer than you think you are. A lot of the times, I think. So.
Yeah, it's so thick in the draw, and I'd say I bumped him going in. He just waited till it got quiet and snuck out and slipped across the highway. It's my only guess, but
we know a couple people that hunt right on the highway and have really good success.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's something listeners might want to look into. If you see a piece that's next to a main highway, you're like, oh, there's way too much traffic. Them bucks cross that all the time,
Oh yeah. You can watch them deer. I watched them, last couple years, and that traffic, it doesn't even bother them. There's, people laying on horns at them crossing the highway, and they'll acknowledge it, but they definitely will still use it. They're going to use it.
So I have hunted a property that has a 4-lane highway next to it, and you get 200, 250 yards away from that highway, you can't even hear the traffic, unless you get a loud semi or something coming by. But other than that, I mean, you're not gonna hear that traffic as much as you think you would out while you're hunting.
No, yeah, it's pretty quiet once you get away from it, but you can hear it in my video. I'm pretty close to the highway.
For some reason, I haven't watched the video, so I'm gonna have to watch that. I didn't know it was on video.
Yeah, I don't know if it's. We haven't really let much of it loose yet.
Oh, okay.
I think there's some small clips out there of it, but it's not much. He woke up from his little nap and saw me standing up and saw him standing in front of me at 45 yards.
He still got it done, though.
Yeah. He actually did really good because I stopped him or tried stopping him where he couldn't see him. So he got the camera swung around.
Just sounds like he did a better job than us.
Right?
Yeah. It's a new challenge for sure.
Yeah, for sure.
Video.
One more thing we like to ask. Once you shot that buck, you had a bunch of people there, watching you drag it out. Did the neighbors have any history that you could piece together, or anybody else that had been hunting him to really show kind of what the deer was doing?
The neighbor that we think the barbed wire came from, he actually has the other side of the shed that I found from 2 years prior. Other than that, I'm sure there's people out there that I haven't really talked to much or don't talk to that have seen him. I know he was missed first shotgun season, the year I killed him. But,
man,
deer's everywhere.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if he's crossing the road like that and people are seeing him, the farmer's jumping him, it don't take very long for that buck like that. Someone's like, oh, I'm getting on that piece. You know what I mean? So that's crazy. He was missed, that shotgun season. Those deer, man, they just survive somehow on unbelievable odds,
Yeah. Yeah, he actually had, I believe it, in my opinion, I believe there was 22 bullet holes in the back of his neck. When I found one hole when I was looking at him and everyone was standing around, it kind of looked like maybe it was one of his own tines that punctured the skin. And then what the taxidermist told me that when he was caping him, he found another hole that had actually healed up on the back of the neck.
Nice. Yeah, we got some taxidermist stories too where rifle rounds fall out of capes and stuff. There's a lot of people out there doing that, and like you said, if that deer was crossing the road, no doubt about it, someone's out there pops a 22 out. We see road hunting in Illinois. Missouri is huge. I used to grow up in Missouri, man. That's just a major problem down there. Not as much in Illinois, I think, but still definitely happens.
Yeah. Yeah, he was on some of the main highways in the county, so it had been more difficult, but obviously there's some side roads and farm roads. But
real lucky you didn't get hit by a car crossing that road back and forth. That would have been tragic.
Yeah, that was one of the big things. I'm actually a deputy sheriff, so every time we'd get a car deer accident in that area.
Oh man, you're just sweating. You're rolling up
there
like.
I'd try to get there first, or try to get there, or if I was not working, the other deputies would let me know that there was one there and it wasn't him, so on. But
well, we appreciate what you do in your line of service, man. I know you guys don't get a lot of credit these days, but we appreciate you out there keeping us safe, even though when you pull me over and give me a ticket, it's not real cool, but I know you're doing it for the right reasons, and I'm in the wrong, so I appreciate you guys out there doing that.
Thank you. Yeah.
You got any more questions on
Man,
me? I mean, a 240-inch deer, I mean, that's epic. There was an article in North American Whitetail, correct?
It was the Rack magazine.
Oh, it was Rack. Yeah, that's what it was.
Yeah.
See, here I'm dropping names, and it's wrong. So, what issue was that? Do you know?
It was February of 2018, I believe.
Nice. So, if you want to read more on the story, see some pictures, you can check out that Rack magazine. And where can the people find you on social media?
My social media is just at Facebook is Adam Cartright. Instagram's the same. I'm also on Second Nature Outdoors on Facebook and Second Nature TV on Instagram, as well as Second Nature Outdoors TV.com.
Nice. Talk a little bit about Second Nature. Give you a shameless plug here.
It's just basically a pro staff that me and another fellow deputy, the one that was recording me, and then also two Florida police officers. We started it 2018. Just another challenge, we've all killed some pretty decent deer, and put another challenge on it, a video, and then sharing our hunts with friends and family and whoever else wants to watch.
Yeah, super cool, man. Filming adds a whole new level. Lots of fun. Showcase it to people and tell the stories you wanna tell the way you want to tell them. So
yeah,
it's definitely rewarding when you put it all together and you get to watch it at the end. And
yeah, you can always have them memories. Look back at them.
Yeah,
I haven't watched my video for a long time, but every time I do, it's still,
Yeah, I got my recovery saved on my laptop, and sometimes I just pop it up, and I'm like, man, what an epic moment. So, my boy the other day, he's a big YouTube watcher. I think all kids are, but he goes, I want to watch that dove hunting video, and it's him dove hunting, and that's what he wanted to watch on YouTube. So I was like, that's pretty cool. So it's cool to get your film out there and be able to see it for yourself,
Yeah. Hopefully here soon, we're working on some stuff with Second Nature to try to get some videos out, and hopefully that's what we're kind of waiting to, to show Dale's video.
Nice.
Have something with it. So,
well, I'm excited to see it, man. I appreciate you spending some time with us here tonight.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for having me.
Man, 240 inches, and he probably shot at least 3 inches off when he hit the base of the antler.
It had to have.
The mass probably shrunk at least an inch. I'm saying, I can't even fathom this story, man. A missed encounter on a 240, and then to have a second chance and to get it done. I mean, just to have a miss on that is devastating. So props to him for getting back out there and keeping hunting, keep running those cams late in the season and trying to get it done.
You know what's really come through here in the last few episodes of the Legend of the Woods series is, a lot of these guys are getting, eyeballs on these deer before, they shoot them or, have it like a really good encounter, or, they got the farmer bumping them around or whatever. I just feel like with me, that doesn't happen, but, I'll have good camera activity. So, maybe my stand placement isn't as good, and that's something that I need to rethink going into this year, like where my stands are at and coordinate to my cameras. So something I'm going to be thinking about.
Yeah. It seems like they see a lot of them on the field edge, or they're getting them out, in the beans early.
I would say definitely, if you got beans, you need to probably have a camera somewhere.
Putting a camera on that.
Yeah, and definitely glass it.
So we hope you guys enjoyed this episode. We definitely enjoyed talking to Adam. Check out Second Nature Outdoors, their content on social. See some pics of this barbed wire buck, 240-inch Legend of the Woods. Get out there, try to leave a legacy, and Whitetail Legacy's out.